go to the door of your car and get your own personal AR-15 out. The AR-15 that belongs to you personally. Why did you have to choose to do that?
Well, because
My husband didn't deserve that.
the original plan called for a stack, and what you do usually when they train, when Metro trains, they train that when you do a stack, the first guy in the stack is one with the best body armor, and you want to have you basically want to one up. If someone's got a hand, if you think someone might have a gun in the car, you want to go one further. And the rifle, to tell you the truth, is one of the weapons on the department that you can control better. The ammunition that they use is a lot softer, and it travels a lot less further than my 40 caliber Glock would have.
And then you should have used that instead, probably with 80 minutes.
When I redeployed on the other side, especially when it comes to a car, I mean, you try to use the tools they train you to use. I mean, I could have had a department rifle, but I actually was fortunate enough to have the money to buy my own rifle that I could.
And you chose to use that, your own personal rifle, on a human being. On a human being that didn't deserve that.
I never planned on using it on a human being that night.
Real quick, guys, sorry, I gotta switch magazine here real quick. Do one sec. Alright, go ahead and cut for a sec, guys.
You know, I know this is going to be hard to believe, but one of the reasons why the department got rid of me was not because I'm a bad officer, it's because I'm one of those officers that don't go with the flow and the bureaucratic bullshit and the dirty politics that they play. They wanted to play this a certain way, and I wasn't going to play it. You know, my union told me, hey, plead the fifth because the department... Well, they all have their own personal agendas, and I found that out towards the end, too. But the sheriff wanted to hang this on somebody. The sheriff didn't want to come out and say, hey, we made mistakes. Our lieutenant made mistakes. Our sergeant made, there was mistakes all over the board. They wanted to find someone on the low end that they could blame it on, and everything rolls downhill. You know, Stanley was in the military. I'm pretty sure he's had stories and he's told you the same thing. I mean, if you look at it, I don't know if you know this, but you know the PIO office, there's a female in there that used to work for Channel 8 News. All the bad stuff that leaked out about my personnel file was from Channel 8 News. That was stuff Gillespie was putting out about me to try to make me look like a monster. I've always been the type of cop where I pull someone over. If they're having a bad day, I cut them a break. I never gave everyone a ticket. I didn't take everyone to jail. If I had to take someone to jail, I didn't MF anybody on the way to jail. It was just business.
So what's this about you being a racist and the things that Catherine said?
My ex-wife, if you want to see those documents, she's been in the mental hospital before.
I don't care about that. It's the things that you had said to her.
I did not.
Allegedly. Okay, I'm going to rephrase
Yeah.
that. The things you allegedly said to her. See, I wasn't there. I can't say if you did or if you did. All I know is that day in the courthouse, when Steve dragged me up there, and she caught me outside the courtroom, and I couldn't believe the things she was telling me that you had said.
We were in the middle of a very heated custody battle. She wanted to take my son from me and take him to Iowa and never have me see him again, maybe on summers and once a month. And I have another daughter that I raised her, I have 50-50. When it comes to being a parent, I'm the type of parent where I'm not a weekend dad. I don't just pay my child support and see my kids when it's convenient. I'm there, I make sure I'm there for my kids half the time. And when you're in the middle of a custody battle like that, and she desperately wanted to go back to Iowa, she got denied by the judge. And after this whole situation popped up, she refiled to ask the judge again if she could take my son back to Iowa. The judge said no. That part of the case has already been settled. So anything she could do, she was going to do to try to get my kid away from me. And
So everything she said was a lie to get you in trouble. So that means she could go perjure herself, whatever.
in family court, they don't have the same rules. You can lie all through family court, and they won't hold anyone responsible.
She took this to my lawyer, and she gave a statement to my lawyer on it.
Yes, she did. And all this stuff with the shooting is all through my divorce case too, all in the paperwork. She's trying to point out how much of a monster I am, how much bad father I am because I got in the shooting. You know, all this was in my this shooting didn't just devastate my personal career. You know, at the time this happened, we were separated and we were trying to work it out and get back together. I don't know if she told you that.
No, all she told me is the things you said about my husband. About you want to get a 6-month vacation by shooting up. I can't even say the word. I can't bring myself to saying that word. And how can you as a man say that word to another man?
We don't strap on our boots at night saying we're going to go out there and shoot and kill somebody. That's the furthest thing from our mind. You know, I've never been that type of cop, and that's why they pushed me out. Because I don't go with the flow. You know, management, if you're wrong, I point out you're wrong. We can't do that, boss, and this is why. They didn't like the fact that I was one of those cops that was a free thinker.
So you didn't say any of that stuff?
No, I
You
did
didn't
not.
say, you know, you're sitting there watching her and not telling you're gonna slit her throat,
No, I did not.
you know?
At
So
that
much has
time,
come to me, you know, I've heard so much bullshit, I don't even know where anymore, you know? The last words that I heard from Stan, it wasn't, I love you, Booge, I'll be home, nothing like that. His last words to me, I'm cold, I'm tired, I'm hungry, come and help me, come save me, I wanna come home. I didn't get to bring him home. So every night at 9 o'clock, at 9:15, that's what I hear. And that's exactly what I hear. I don't watch TV anymore. I don't do anything anymore. I'm so scared that my dog running around outside for somebody's gonna come and kill him too. 2 months before Stan got killed, our other pig got killed. Exactly 2 months. Charlotte was killed October 12th, Stan was killed December 12th.
well, I just recently had to move myself because of Mr. Steve Sampson putting my name and address out there. I've had people drive by my house. I've had people
I
confront
got
me in
men who
public.
come by there all the time. They were sitting outside my door the other day. Just sitting there taking pictures.
They're not there on my behalf. I don't have any friends that I got probably maybe. Metro always preaches about family and it's a brotherhood, the blue line. All that's bullshit. Once they threw me out to the dogs and hung me out to dry, I have maybe 3 or 4 people that are still friends that are cops. Out of an academy class of 100 people I went to, that we went through the same stuff for 6 months, day in and day out, supposedly this brotherhood. There ain't no brotherhood in Metro. Whatever they're doing, that has nothing to do with me. Every time I get pulled over, I get ran the right act. I get my car searched. I get pulled off my motorcycle and asked where I'm going, who I've been with. I just recently went to court for protecting my son. Did Catherine tell you my son was coming over abused? Black
Last time I
eye?
talked to Catherine was at the court. I've never talked to her since then.
My son was coming over one time with a black eye, another time bruised ear. Then he started telling me that he got punched in the head by this guy Steve that she's dating. You know, I did CPS report, I did 2 Metro reports. The Metro detective told me, oh, you need to learn to get along with your ex-wife. So I believe I did the right thing, and I talked to the guy when I bumped into a church, told him to keep his hands off my kid. Just recently, for telling someone to keep their hands off my kid that's being abused, I got convicted of 2 misdemeanor crimes. I'm doing an appeal right now. I'm in 2 misdemeanor cases, 17 grand, because Metro wants to see me in jail for 6 months.
You don't think they're not trying to set me up for what I did to her?
Doug Gillespie's very vengeful. Very vengeful. I don't doubt that at all, to tell you the truth. I really don't. I've had the feeling of people following me before, and I've lane split and taken off on my Harley before, because I've seen cars behind me. I was told by my union that, hey, watch what you say on your phone. I'm like, why is that? Well, you don't know who's listening.
Yeah, trust me, I know that from experience.
So I think it's really interesting that the radio, how that whole thing got buried.
Yeah,
Could you talk about that?
This is one thing a lot of people don't like to hear. You pay $44 million for a radio system that should work.
Did you say over 40 million for radio?
Yeah, so
$44.8 million for the radio system is what it was. Gillespie's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his buddy that was retiring from the radio bureau sold him on the idea, and they bought the radio system. You know, I mean, Stanley was in the Army. You cannot have a radio system that doesn't work when you're in the Army, police force, anything tactical that you need to talk. It doesn't work. That night, you can stand next to one guy, he can hear on the radio, I can't hear. He can call out on the radio, I can't call out on the radio. I mean, a lot of people want to say that the radio system isn't that big of a deal, but when you can't communicate with people that are on a scene like that, you might as well just back off and go home. And nobody made that call. No one said, hey, guess what, the radio systems suck, we can't hear. No one knows what's going on. We can't communicate. Everyone pack it up and go home. You know, it's not the radio system that killed him, you're right.
Thank you. You know, because I'm so sick and tired of hearing it coming out of everybody's mouth. Oh, it's a radio system. You pulled the trigger, not him.
Yeah.
And why did you have to pull 7 shots? Why did you have to keep shooting? Why did you have to keep shooting?
When it came to my perception, my perception now that I know after the fact, after it happened, I found out it was...
After my life is completely ruined.
Exactly, mine is too. I mean, you lost somebody, you know, and that doesn't compare, but
But why couldn't you just stop?
Because the way they train me, this is what Metro likes to frickin' deny. Like, oh, no. They tried saying that we don't train that way. Yeah, we do train that way. I was a firearms instructor for 7 years before this happened. Everything that I train my people, they train me to do. And I know you don't want to, this is hard to hear, but a perception, when you're given that split-second reaction and you think you're being shot at, if you wait, you or someone you know could be dead.
But you shot me in the head.
If you don't wait, and then you make a mistake, you're still screwed either way.
You shot me in the head like a dog.
What we're trying to do is you take center mass of what's available. What I saw was from his shoulders up. We're not trained to shoot through a door. Whatever center mass is of your target, that's what you're trained to aim for. And we're not trained to shoot to kill. We're trained to shoot to eliminate the threat. And I did not know I pulled off 7 rounds. I thought I pulled the trigger twice.
Maybe you don't need to be using the AR-15 if you don't know what you're doing there. You just got to say you're an instructor. You know how to handle stuff, but you didn't.
There's a lot of shootings. There's a lot of shootings nationwide. They've done studies. Every time an officer says, "Hey, how many times did you shoot?" And they said once or twice. It's always more. And it's not going to bring any comfort. It's just the studies they've done. Because I was the same way. I'm like, well, I thought I pulled the trigger twice, and I had to research. Well,
there were 7 shots to the back of his head. There's 12 total, 13 shots to the car body itself.
there were 7 rounds fired from the rifle. When the AR round, it's soft, it breaks, and it tumbles. Some of those other could have been fragments.
I've had people come up that are just as good as you when it comes to guns. They're bullet holes in my husband's car. The car is still in the exact same shape as it was the night you guys did this. I haven't done anything to it. The blood is still there. The memories are still there.
Are you sorry, Gibson?
I'm extremely sorry.
Did you say that to her? Look at her.
That's a human life lost. I mean, that's not something you train to do. They don't even, I mean, they train you for certain stuff, but they can't train you for something like this. I mean, a lot of people think that this is what cops do. It's not what cops do. Being a Christian and being human, this isn't something that you just deal with and move on. I'm extremely sorry for what happened that night. It shouldn't have happened. There was a lot of mistakes made that night, but one thing that they did was they made me out to be the monster, like everything was my fault. You know, not only my career got devastated, I have a 17-year-old daughter that doesn't like me anymore because she says that my personality changed. Wants nothing to do with me. I was in the middle of a divorce, separated, tried to get back together because of the stress of what was going on. That fell apart.
But see, you still got she's still there. You can still call a doctor. I don't have that.
My daughter don't even talk to me.
Dude, I'm talking about Catherine. She's there. You can call her probably anytime you want to.
Nope.
I don't have that. I don't have nobody I could talk to. I talk to my dog.
In some ways, you guys are kind of in the same boat.
I
A
talk
little
to
bit,
my
huh?
dog, you know?
It sucks, but yeah, it does sound like that.
And I don't even know how I'm supposed to feel, but I don't know yet.
You know, one thing, and this isn't going to help, but one thing I really want to express is that night was a misperception. I had 1 second to make up a perception whether or not.
1.3 seconds, which you had just. That's how long it took each shot. Set off 7 rounds. 1.3 seconds.
To decide whether or not he was
No.
shooting at us or who someone else was shooting.
Well, you. See, that's what I understood. They said you understood when they said it was going to do the beanbag.
They canceled that plan.
No, they didn't, because there's beanbag pelts all in my car. No, they didn't cancel it.
The first plan was this. Okay, the team we had together before the lieutenant showed up, it was Sergeant Tuick's plan.
The one that quit that night.
He actually ended up retiring. They forced him out too. We had the plan to where I was first in line because I'm the only one that could afford the body armor that could stop any type of round if we got shot at. It was two or three other officers behind me. They're going to beanbag the window and then spray in a devastator, which is about the size of a.
Yeah, which is illegal
extinguisher.
because you're not supposed to do that in such an enclosed space. That would have been illegal too.
Well, they were thinking on their feet. That was the sergeant's plan.
Well,
That was the best plan we had because when we called SWAT, SWAT didn't call us back. SWAT told us to call somebody else. It was Sergeant King who received the call, who was the acting lieutenant that night. He said, "Hey, Lieutenant Crimson or whoever it was, already touched down. Find him. He didn't want to take the call. It was his responsibility to take that call, and he told us basically, hey, I don't want the call. Go find the lieutenant. So at that point, our sergeant made the decision to put together the best plan he thought that was possible to save everyone's life. And when the lieutenant showed up, the lieutenant did not know what was going on, did not have any proper information about what was going on, and he pulled everyone back. As far as what he told us was, the plan is off. Lieutenant Dockendorf told us the plan's off. We're not going to do that. We're going to PA the car, and give him another opportunity to come out of the car. I told my sergeant, Sarge, that's fine. I'm going to redeploy over here next to the Toyota Camry on the other side. If the plan's back on, come get me. Because as far as I knew, the only people that were going to be in the stack, which was the team that was going to go do the extract, was me, Natuick, Witham, Grego Smith,